If you own one, you know there's no shortage of clunks and rattles on the Mini. In this video, we'll look at one, the inner tie rod. A bit of a clunking noise as I'm driving down the road, straight, flat piece of road if it's a little uneven. There is one special tool for this job. Otherwise, reasonably straightforward. This is the one I chose for removing the inner tie rod end. There's very little castings on it. This is more forged, so I think that's going to be a stronger tool generally. There's quite a few different styles you can choose from. Get like a big long pipe tool that goes over the entire tie rod end. And as well as costing more, that one's going to take up a lot of room. I try to avoid buying tools. They're going to take up a lot of room and very rarely get used. So this one will not see a lot of use, but it won't take up much room either, so that's a winner. The point where the ratchet goes in is offset from the center. So I'll go through and explain how to get the right torque setting with one of these offset tools. 24mm open end wrench. I'll mention that in case you don't have that in your toolbox. You might be able to do that with an adjustable. What sort of gorilla did your wheel alignment last time? Replacement parts. I'm going to replace the boot. My old one's not torn as far as I know, but the fact that the joint is worn out suggests that maybe some water or dirt has got in. Chosen one that comes with clamps. I'll leave part numbers down below and links to where you can get those. Tie rod inner. Okay, so I got a Lemforder. Lemforder is original equipment for the Mini. It's not a genuine Mini part, but it's the part that Mini uses. I believe they're the same left and right hand side. Hopefully. I think for a lot of people that had a problem with the tie rod end, they would replace both the inner and the outer at the same time. This Lemforder OE brand inner, for the cost of this, you could buy a cheaper brand, both the inner and outer. And, you know, 10 years ago, certainly that's what I would have done. But these days, I'm less trusting of some of the aftermarket parts are pretty junky. So in this case, I spent 20 bucks on a genuine Lemforder inner, and I will be reusing the original outer. Doing this work, you'll also likely need a wheel alignment afterwards. First, we'll raise and support the vehicle. I use a big piece of 4x2 to support the underbody. Then I can put the jack stand under the jacking point. You don't want to jack directly onto the body here. A piece of wood spreads the load. Hear that noise? That's what I'm hearing as I drive down the road, going straight. Just as it goes over bumps. And I spent quite a while feeling around, right? Where's that noise coming from? And I can feel it through the boot on the tie rod. It's not on the outer, it's on the inner. It took me a while to find the source of the noise on this one. I was convinced it was coming from the rear right-hand side. Anyway, eventually found it on the front left. There you go. And with that wheel off, here's the tie rod end, the ball joint. When you get your wheel alignment done and they're changing the toe, they're undoing this bolt, turning this inner. Okay, so this isn't part of the steering rack itself. This is the inner joint. And where I can feel the play is in here. The other place you might get play is in this joint. Or any of the others, of course. You can check for any play in your sway bar links, your suspension arms. So how to get this out? This will need to come undone. If you're in a part of the world where they put salt on the roads, that could cause you difficulty. Get some penetrant on there beforehand. These clips need to come off each end of the boot. Turn the steering wheel all the way to the right to give myself more room. And I'll mark the threads so that I can get the wheel alignment back in roughly the same position. If you can, count the threads, or you can measure the distance. If you're confident the new parts will have the same reference point. Now let's see if I can pop those clips off around here. They're compressed on either side. Okay, we'll crack this lock nut loose with the 19 on the flats here to hold this still, and the 24mm on the big nut. Jeepers, it's done up tight. Looks like they didn't want it coming loose. Gotcha. That's painfully tight. I just need that broken loose. So a 24mm open end spanner. I don't see how you're going to get that off with any other tool. Now, if you're replacing both the inner and outer tie rod, you would undo that nut at this point and separate the joint. I don't want to risk damaging this joint by separating it, so I'll leave that alone and I'll undo it from this end. 13mm to spin that out. So that's separated now, that's out of the way. Oh, and if you are replacing this, there's a big L on here, big L for left, and there should be an R on the other side. These are specific to the left or the right. The inboard is common to both sides. I think on the later R53s and R50s, there might be a collar on this nut or attached to here. Either way, the earlier ones just have a lock nut. I'll be able to slide that off now once I get the inside clip off. What you're fighting against here is these little holes are resting on these little clips. Getting a screwdriver in there and twisting till it becomes loose enough to slide off is one. So that is the joint that I'm replacing. And this is where our special tool comes in. Get those bolts nice and tight. I'll try a 3/8 ratchet with an extension. Yep. All right, I'll remove that tool and we can take that off. See the BMW symbol on there, also the Lemforder symbol. Looks to be a match to that symbol, which clearly is a bull walking through a triangular door. A Lemforder made in Malaysia. Certainly that old one's got some easy movement in it. This one, yeah, I can't even budge that. Okay, so the torque is 59 foot-pounds or 80 Newton meters. So if you've got the proper tool that runs over the outside of this tie rod, you can simply do it up to that torque spec. But I'm using this, and it's got this offset. So that's going to muck with the torque setting, right? So if you put your torque wrench on here and have that lengthways with your torque wrench, it's going to increase the torque. So if it's an extra this much longer, say that's 10% longer than your torque wrench, you're going to apply 10% more than what your torque wrench is saying. But that's only if it's dead in line with the torque wrench. So all we need to do is turn it 90 degrees, then it's going to be the same length on the torque wrench, so it's going to give you the same torque measurement. That tool's in place. Going to give me 90. No, one more click. There we go. Click. Do be careful not to get any dirt into the grease here. I'll keep that nice and clean. I'll put that new boot on before I connect the outer rod. And we'll pinch that connector up nice and tight. Having this whole tie rod here separated off means you could just spin this on. But to avoid separating this ball joints, I'm just going to take my time and wind it on slowly from the inside out. Okay, I've got that all the way on and just realized I forgot to put this in a clip on for this side. What a pain. Get that to the point about where you're comfortable it's good enough to go to the wheel alignment shop. 33 foot-pounds this is meant to go up to. I don't have a crow's foot wrench I can put on there to torque it, so I'm just going to have to do it reasonably tight. Check everything's moving freely and those clips stay nice and secure on there. Get that all back together and give it a quick road test before it goes in for a wheel alignment. I never had that rattle until I took the dash out to fix another rattle. All back together, and on the test drive, no clunking noises driving down the road. Because of the cost of the wheel alignment, there's a good argument for replacing both the inner and the outer. You decide which parts you want to replace. That's just a quick run through of a reasonably straightforward job if you have the right tools there.